Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 yo, go, go.
I can't believe All Might is this powerful. Well, what do you mean, kid? Like in my world, he's always been number one, especially for the past 20 years. There's no one who's been able to top him. And even in his Small Might form, before he got his training, he was still almost at the same level as me. I hate to see how powerful he was before his injury, because this, even at full power, of course, we're nowhere near you or anyone in this world, but how I want to catch up to him someday, and I know someday I will since we share the same power, but I really want to surpass him. Master Roshi would tell Midoriya, well, someday you are if you keep training. Remember our motto: work hard, study hard, and sleep well. That is the turtle hermit way. As Midoriya would say, yeah, as he would realize the time of crap, I gotta get back home. As he gets both All Might and Uraraka, as he transport them back home, saying goodbye to everyone. As he says he be back in time for the baby shower, be back in time for the bachelor shower that Midoriya is going. As he say, of course, as he say, of course, stuttering a lot because he's still a bit nervous to the point where he's talking when he's talking to Vegeta. As they will all be laughing, as Midoriya would go back home. As All Might having a full power at this point, using one for all to be specifically, would be about at almost 2.5 thousand, and and with Midoriya only being able to use 20% of one for all sale, his power level is only 280 when he's going all out, and he knows that someday he's going to be able to surpass All Might, as that's where he puts his mind to. As All Might would tell Midoriya he almost forgot. And he hands him a permission slip as well as Uraraka. I was supposed to give you guys these at class, but since you're already here, you have to go and get your parents' permissions. As Uraraka would say, it's ironic that the richest man in Japan still need his mother's permission in order to go on his field trip. As Midoriya would rub the back of his head, well, I'm only got wealthy because of Bama. It's not like it's my own accomplishments, but Uraraka would say nonsense. Bama may have gave you the blueprints, but you still had to work hard and build the equipment here. So it is because of your own hard work, and some of your inventions are amazing, even though they're not flying cars or capsules. You still made good inventions and you revolutionized the world. As All Might would go on to thank Midoriya, also thank him for the sensu bean. Now he's at full health. As he gets down on one knee, as he tells Midoriya, although I have a hold over one for all currently, and I can make it last a little bit longer, it's not going to last forever. And I know I have no idea what my peak power output will be after it runs out, but you, you have the potential to be the world greatest hero, the world greatest hero. You might even be the next All Might. Of course, you can't. But what I'm saying is, you are going to be great, and that's why I chose you as as my successor. It might have been luck that you got transported to that world, but even before that, I knew that you would have made something great. As Midori would think All Might, as he flies off, excited to do hero work without a time limit once again. As he at this point he actually flies. As All Might is really excited that he no longer have to worry about it, and he can save as much people as he wants. Since it happened and told his mind that he haven't been able to help more people, but that's what makes All Might great. He's a hero. As Midoriya and Uraraka flies off, going back home, as Midoriya asks her over for dinner, as Uraraka says, of course, and besides, we have a little bit work to do with the capsule courts. As Midoriya would say, "Oh right, I almost forgot. we're supposed to be unveiling the healing chambers today. Today, as Uraraka would respond, "Well, it's not that hard. It's not like you actually have to be there, but it would help with publicity, or at least a little bit with the media. That's why you hired me, you know." As Midoriya would say, of course." As they fly home, and Inko and Hiyashi, Midoriya's father, that beat wherever he is again, is super proud of Midoriya, and Inko gives him a look as this is the first time he actually brought a girl home. It might be his assistants, but Inko say it might be a hope for her to have grandkids yet. As Midoriya say, "Mom, I'm only like 16. I'm not even thinking about marriage yet. I'm not even legally an adult yet." As she would begin laughing, as they all eat dinner, as Midoriya would hand over the permission slip to the USJ, as Inko asks, is what is this place exactly? As Midoriya would explain, it's one of the best training facilities in Japan. Thanks to me, they had a few upgrades there, and now the training we get received from there is hopefully it won't we won't break anything, but it's one of the best state of the art training facilities in all of Japan, maybe even the world. They have tsunami disturbance, boat sinking, fire, mountain ranges, air travel. As Inko would tell Midoriya to calm down as he's muttering again. As Midoriya would say, of course, as she signs the permission slip. And the next day, and they all began loading up on a bus to actually travel there. As Aizawa would tell them, "I don't really care where you sit, just don't make a hassle." As they will all load up on the bus, and they will all begin having conversations about what exactly Midoriya Cork is, and everyone will try explaining what theirs is. As Midoriya is writing all of this now in his notebook, keeping notes of everyone's abilities, and he said maybe he could help them train more. As he started writing down their strengths, their weaknesses, and what they're good at, Asuyu or Froppy would ask Midoriya, "Hey, what exactly are your powers? I seen you use super speed or super strength or things like that, but I can't really I can't really put my eye on it." As Midoriya would say, "Well, I guess you can call it kinetic energy manipulation. I have the powers to hold and stockpile power, and I can use that energy to do different things. I can even manifest weapons with it, and I might be able to heal people, but that's a little bit harder. But with the more kinetic energy I can build up, I can hold it, and I can release all of it in one attack, although it's damaging to my body. Right now, at my full power, I can use maybe 20% of the output without hurting myself exactly. And I can also use it to shoot different energy blasts, and I'm also able to fly. As everyone would say that's impressive, but they would look over to Uraraka, but that's where recently in class and doing training, she's been doing the same thing. As Uraraka would say, "Oh, my quirk is zero gravity," and it would make sense that I would be able to hold kinetic energy also, as everyone would be like mad confused. That what doesn't really make any sense, as people would begin to think they're related since their powers are so similar, but they would say nonsense. Midoriya can't control gravity like Uraraka can. So maybe they're just similar. Maybe they both have forms of energy kinetic energy manipulation or energy control. As they will all put it on the back of their mindset, it's oddly convenient and actually impressive. As they would enter the USJ facility, Midoriya would begin to fanboy, never saying anything this amazing. Of course, he's seen Capsule Corp, and he went all over the earth, but this is amazing. He knows with proper training in here, he can become a real hero, just like All Might. Fanboying, as Uraraka tells him, to calm down a bit. You're letting your fanboy show again as he gets a little embarrassed. As Uraraka knows how powerful Midoriya really is, being, in her opinion, man only second to All Might himself, but she still likes that Midoriya is still the same person she knows and somebody who's humble. As 13 would enter the facility and Aizawa would ask where All Might is, as 13 would say he got a little too excited doing hero work and he needs a little rest. As she puts up her hand, as 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 Aizawa would say, of course he did. I wonder how he healed that scar of his to begin with. If only I had something like that. As their team would begin giving a speech and giving a tour of the facility, as Midoriya and Uraraka would freeze in their tracks, as they would be a little bit confused, as they would sense some form of malice, but they don't know where it's coming from. As Deku will also be receiving a ringing sound in his head, not knowing exactly what it is. Of course, we know it's his danger sense, but Midoriya, he thinks it's just his key since acting up. As he begins looking around, as Aizawa will see Midoriya is irritated, as he asks what's the problem is, noting it. As Midoriya says something something bad is about to happen. As Aizawa would say, what? As Aizawa would notice a weird mist forming behind Midoriya as he says, Ida, leave out the door now. Go get All Might and the teachers. As Ida, without any hesitation, rush out as the doors are still shut behind him. As Aizawa leaps into battle while the villains are coming out. As Shigaraki would be a bit confused, like of how he knew they were coming in the first place, and the battle between Aizawa and the villains would begin as Aizawa instantly is able to take out 5 villains as Shigaraki will begin to fanboy out over Aizawa, knowing that he's pretty cool. And Korigiri still ends up splitting up all the units. And Uraraka and Midoriya is split. As Midoriya ends up on the boat area as he sees Froppy and Mineta as he flies up and saves them, landing them safely on the ship. As he asks what the heck is going on to himself. As as Mineta is freaking out, he tells him to calm down, that he got this. As villains attempt to start raiding the ship, Midoriya begins to power up, going into full cal 20%, as he lets off airwaves, knocking back all the villains, knocking them out. Midoriya did feel a bit sad, noting that, hey, maybe they're going to drown, but then he noticed that all the criminals have at least some sort of cork which would allow them to breathe underwater, as he thinks to himself, wait a second, Poppy, why exactly are you here? This doesn't make much sense. Shouldn't you be in the flame area? As why would they send a water user to a place with the most water? That doesn't make much sense. As they would begin to formulate a plan, as Midoriya would say, "Hey, I don't think this attack was really all that well planned out. If so, they wouldn't have sent you here." As he grabs him and he flies over to where Aizawa is. As as Midoriya will fall on the ground, heading right behind the shore. As he sees as he sees Aizawa in the middle of combat the against the Nomu, as Uraraka with her group is rounding up the rest of her classmates. As her classmates is impressed, as she uses her quirk zero gravity to make herself even faster, as she's flying, saving everyone who needs help, and taking out as much villains as she can. Of course, she's not the best fighter, but with her strength and her speed, no one can barely see her coming, making Bakugo himself a bit jealous. As he punches, move his wrist forward, as he's irritated that both Midoriya and Uraraka, even Todoroki, all have, if not more potential, if not they're stronger than him, and that makes him angry as he begins taking out villains right alongside her. As as Todoroki is also began fighting, as cutting back to Midoriya, He's upset as he's paralyzed with fear. This thing is nearly on the same level as All Might. I don't know if I'm going to be able to beat it. But Midoriya rushing in to help Aizawa grabs him out of the way as he's seriously injured, as his arm is starting to decay and he can no longer eat. As Midoriya hands Aizawa over a sensu bean, knowing Midoriya, he said he might need it if anyone got hurt a little bad. As Aizawa would eat the bean, as he would notice every single last one of his injuries are completely healed. Even his eyesight that was damaged is back to 100%. As he asks Midoriya, "What exactly did you just give me?" As he says, "It's one of the crops for my company. They can heal any injury." As Aizawa would be shocked as he's back up to full action, as he says, "Midori, what is the full output of your power?" If I had to put it number wise, I'm about at the very least, I'm about 40% of All Might, of old All Might before he got stronger. As he says, go fight that Nomu, but I'm going to weaken it. As Aizawa activates his quirk, deactivating all of the Nomu quirk, making the Nomu and Midoriya a bit more equal. But Midoriya will notice as he's fighting that the Nomu is still abnormally strong. Its agility, its speed, it's still able to push him back, and the fighting is intense. As Midoriya really not liking going over his limit, but knowing he powers up to 40%, putting massive strains over his body, but at most he's springing his muscles, but it's not a full on break yet. As he began facing off against the Nomu once more, and Aizawa being back at full strength, he is able to damage. He is able to keep the Nomu from regenerating. As Midoriya put powering back down, putting 100% of Form for All into his arms, that he began firing off like a Kamehameha. As he lets it off, as a huge energy blast goes at the Nomu, but as it hits him full force, but appears behind Sh- Aizawa. He kicks Aizawa in the head, sending him flying back. As Kurogiri does have a slight strength enhancement, as he blinks and the Nomu begins to regenerate, and Midoriya is down for the count, using all of his power, trying to at least kill the Nobu, but it begins to regenerate it as he looks over, as he still have one more arm left, as he powers off an energy blast at Kurogiri, knocking him back as he regroups with Shigaraki. And Midoriya is horrified because he tried to hit everything. He tried to hit the Nomu with everything he had, and it didn't work. This Nomu is somehow equal to All Might. It's maybe even stronger as Midoriya is shocked and confused of how this is even of how exactly this is even possible. As Shigaraki began to laugh, "Do you really think you could have stood a chance? This thing is made to kill All Might himself." As All Might will begin breaking through the door, as he senses a Nomu power, as she rushes at it, knocking out any villain he sees. As their battle would begin, as Deku noticed, no, he only have about one sense being left, and he can feel Uraraka power getting weaker as she's been over exerting herself. He eats half of it, getting himself back up to full health, and his arm healing, with him getting a little stronger, and his body a bit more resistance, allowing himself to go from 20% to 25% in this short battle. But Deku knows he never had anybody challenge him this bad before. As he flies off, knowing All Might can handle the Nomu, he gives Uraraka the other half of the sensu beam, getting herself back up to full strength as well. As they begin surrounding and wiping out the rest of the villains, as Midoriya could sense All Might strength double somehow, as All Might is beginning his battle with the Nomu, he uses a technique he learned from Goku. He uses his technique he learned from Goku, the Kaioken. Of course, his body he could only use the time for and nowhere near the levels of Goku, but it is a pretty effective technique for him. As he began battling against the Nomu, and the Nomu almost seems like it's getting angrier and it's getting stronger. As he lets off a huge energy beam from his mouth, as All Might is shocked as he quickly has a duck down, as a hole blows through the ceiling of the USA. As All Might says, what is that? Oh, a little gift from my master. This thing was made to kill the current version of you. As All Might is shocked, what exactly are you talking about? Do you really think my master would have planned for this? You really think he couldn't feel the immense growth of power you had? Of course we but over prepare. But All Might isn't scared as he goes full power to his full 2.5k using the Kaioken, reaching a power level of 10,000, but he feels the Nomu is simply absorbing his energy and using it against himself. As he says, oh, talk disruption. And it can hold power and release it. Somewhat like one for all. But do you really think that's all I can do? As Alma begins jumping up and ground, rushing back towards Nomu, pushing it dead as Sonic, as the Nomu begins to be pushed back, as the amount of power it can absorb is limited. And, and the Nomu began punching Alma, trying to damage him, hitting his weak spot. But Shigaraki's shocked, noting, wait a second, his injury is healed? So All Might must have had one of those beams just like Master did. It was even able to heal him up to 100%. As All Might overhears him as he says, Master, wait a second, this thing have multiple quirks as well as that awful one. As All Might gets angrier as he in a rage goes up to Kaioken times 5, punching the Nomu, hitting it with a full power energy wave, sending it flying, obliterating over half of his body. As All Might begins to realize his train of Run for All is even greater than the train of Kaioken is even greater than he imagined. As he gets down on one knee, knowing that's his limit, he can use One for All. As his power drops down to around 200 to around 250. As he's shocked, I knew my time limit was longer, but it looks like I did a little too much work. But thankfully I was able to knock that thing out before I became too tired. As Shigaraki is furious as he attempts to go and kill All Might, but he gets shot, and Karagiri teleports himself out of there. With Midoriya going back to All Might, as he says, Midoriya, do you have any more sensu beans on you? As All Might says, as Midoriya says to All Might, no, I had to use one on Azawa, and I split the last one I had between myself and Uraraka. But I can get more for 13 and you if you need them. As All Might would tell Midoriya, thank you. As as all the villains would get rounded up by the cops. The police begins to question every student to get a proper report of what exactly happened, as well as going over security footage. Thankfully, no one was seriously injured thanks to Midoriya, and not only that, they also have healing chambers as courtesy from council court. So anyone who was injured, just got placed inside of a pod, and they was able to get back up to full health. As Midoriya and Uraraka would take a break off school, as they gave everyone in class 1A and UA General a week off to recover from this attack. And Midoriya used this time training, trying to get a new feel of One for All now that his limit have increased. And even Uraraka have got a bit stronger, and they're a bit more motivated. This is the first time they ever had to fight real villains, and they're a bit scared of what's going to happen in the future. That Nomu creature, it was stronger than Midoriya. Midoriya thought he was pretty powerful, and he assumed no one in this verse would be able to beat him. But if someone was able to create something that powerful, Midoriya Midoriya and Uraraka both have new inspiration and train for, and they notice a technique that All Might has, and um, as All Might will begin teaching them the basics of the Kaioken. Yo, what's up, everyone? I really do hope you guys enjoyed this video. I enjoyed it, but remember, leave a like, comment, subscribe. Just do whatever you want. But I really do hope you guys enjoyed this. Peace out.